of life. What he found in a single moment of a single day would change his life and the world forever. The Buddha. His life. His journey. His awakening.
Tuesday night at 7 on Arizona PBS.
It's the third fatal shark attack in less than 2 months.
Australian beachgoers are threatened by great whites.
I knew I was dead. I absolutely knew I was gone. There's no way I was going to escape this beast.
Now Mark Evans searches for new technology.
A load of sharks, somewhere around 500 sharks.
To prevent a great white wipeout.
Stop the slaughter! If it works, it could really offer something new.
Operation Maneater.
Wednesday night at 9 on Arizona PBS. Support for Arizona PBS comes from viewers like you and from
Whitfill Nursery, proud to support Arizona PBS, a Valley tradition since 1946. Over 200 acres of Arizona-grown trees, citrus, and palms. Complete custom design and installation. And Whitfill Nursery still does the digging. WhitfillNursery.com.
The Persian Room. Travel to another world, to a land of exotic aromas and period decor for a fine dining experience. The Persian Room in North Scottsdale on Scottsdale Road, one light north of Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard. Gourmet exotic cuisine at its best.
Coming up next on Arizona Horizon's Journalist Roundtable, we'll hear about the latest Democratic candidate to throw his hat into the governor's race. And we'll talk about the current governor's declaration of a health emergency here in Arizona to tackle the opioid epidemic. Journalist Roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening. Welcome to Arizona Horizon's Journalist Roundtable. I'm Rick DeBrule, filling in for Ted Simons. Joining us tonight, Mary Jo Pitzel of the Arizona Republic, Howard Fisher of Capital Media Services, and Rachel Leingang of the Arizona Capital Times. All right, our first topic, Tucson Democrat Steve Farley announced earlier this week that he intends to take on Doug Ducey for governor, but first, he's got to work his way through what is now an actual Democratic primary for governor. We have not only Steve Farley, we've got David Garcia and a third candidate as well, who declared a long time ago.
Right. Noe Dyer, who has gotten attention for things that don't have a lot to do with
He's got a rather interesting website running for governor, doesn't he?
Right. Now, Farley is a longtime state lawmaker, currently a state senator from Tucson. He's been talking about running for governor for some time, and I think there was some question about whether he'd really follow through, but he was serious. Garcia got the announcement out first, but Farley is there, and he's going to run hard. And we're going to have the first Democratic primary, since Alfredo Gutierrez and Janet Napolitano?
And this is crucial because, you know, the Republicans, I heard a Republican commentator on the radio this morning saying, oh, that's okay, they'll beat each other up. No, a primary helps for a variety of reasons. A, it sharpens your focus, particularly if you can keep your eye on shooting at Doug Ducey. And B, it gets you ink that you need, particularly if you don't have the kind of money that Ducey is going to be able to raise from his friends, the Koch brothers. I mean, look, when Fred Duvall was running, you know, back in 2014, you know, he kept trying to get some ink. Well, come talk to me after the Republican primary, Fred, because that's all we're paying attention to now. But if we're actually paying attention to Democrats, their ideas, all the earned media they can get, I think that will actually make for a much sharper race and actually could make the current governor vulnerable.
But Rachel, do they have to spend money that they are not going to have for the general election?
There's really two schools of thought. Like, I mean, primaries being good for capturing attention and, you know, figuring out what kind of candidate you are, but also from the second you start running, you're bleeding money. And we're already, you know, 18 months out from the 2018 election, which is, you know, pretty far. Ducey won't have to start spending money until January at the earliest. Well, these guys, they're going to have to start now to try to figure out, you know, who's going to make it through to the end. And
Ducey is a money machine. Even, you know, last time around when it was an open seat, he spent close to $8 million. There was probably an equal amount coming in from the dark money sources. So, you know, that's a phenomenal amount of money to be spent on a state with just 3.2 million or so registered voters.
Well, let's talk about the 64,000-pound gorilla question here, which is, even if you have a killer primary where they get all this name recognition, in reality, are any of these Democratic challengers going to unseat Governor Ducey?
Well, you never say never in an election. I think it's widely believed Ducey is, how he said, is a money machine. He'll be very well financed, a lot of outside support. Democrats, not so much. But, Ducey he's getting a lot of blowback for some of the education policies. This last session, the voucher bill, which is now subject to a referendum. You've got the whole education finance issue. People feel schools are underfunded.
Let's go back to the last election. All these people talking about, Senator McCain was vulnerable, and he ended up with an overwhelming victory.
But here's part of there's a couple of other things that are different. This is not a presidential election, and the common wisdom is that the party not in power does better. Now, obviously, we're talking Congress for a lot of this. You've got a lot of Republicans who are not happy about the orange-haired dude in the White House at the moment and what he's going to mean to the party in terms of for the other races. You also have what else is going to be on the ballot. Not only the question of the referendum on the vouchers, but this governor signed 2 measures designed to make it harder for people to create their own laws. And if that goes on the ballot and these people get folks fired up, and they're going to have money to bring people out, these are people who are not going to vote for Doug Ducey. And that makes a difference. But I know you're skeptical. It is a red state. There is no question about that. The forces of business and darkness and evil will be putting lots of money into keeping Doug Ducey there so he can do their bidding, if you will. But the fact is that a properly run campaign, you can use the other side's money against them. Where is this money coming from? What do these people want? But you have to be good at it.
But Rachel, do you think it's going to matter?
I think it's right to be skeptical, but I think we can't discount sort of this grassroots discontent on the Democratic side. There's a lot of people really upset about education issues. They're really upset about what's happening in Washington, and that could lead to a snapback against Republicans. Now, if it's enough, I don't know. I mean, we're still too far out at this point to know what kind of candidates Farley and Garcia themselves will be, so we don't know how strong either one of them will come out on issues that, they're not as comfortable with. Garcia is really focused on education. Pretty unclear where he stands on a lot of other things. Farley's pretty entrenched in legislative politics. Both of them have both positive and negative. That it depends on how they're going to run their campaigns, really.
All right. Speaking of the governor, this past week he declared a health emergency as a result of the opioid epidemic. I guess the first question is, what does that mean, and what's the impact of that?
Well, what it means is the governor wants a little bit of attention. I'm sorry, I'm the skeptic here. Look, the governor got his health department to put out a report early, a week ago, saying that we are losing 2 people a day to opiate abuse. That is a lot. I'm not saying there's not a question there. Then the next week he says, hey, look, I just read my own report. We have an emergency here. What it means is you can shift around some money. You can enact some rules for certain kinds of reporting. It also allows them to get some daily data. Now, the reason this could be important, if somebody's willing to follow through, is you have 431 million pills a year coming into Arizona. This is a state with 6.9 million people.
And we need to explain what an opioid is. I mean, an opioid is a
painkiller,
oxycodone, hydrocodone, those types of things. I mean, it goes beyond that. But the point being, there's a lot of people who have this problem as a result of prescription drugs and then become addicts as a result of using
exactly.
painkillers.
And so the question then becomes, when you've got these are supposed to be prescribed for, you break an arm post-surgery. It's supposed to be 2-3 days. Doctors who have been sold a lot on this by the manufacturers just sort of use them, pass them out almost like candy. And there's a question here of who's responsible for this. You have some executives, former executives from Insys, which is a local firm, who were recently pleaded guilty to promoting these drugs illegally among doctors. And so the question becomes, it's nice to talk about, well, we're going to help people and we're going to provide them Narcan if they have an overdose. But we really need to be looking upstream at the source. And perhaps this emergency will give the governor and the health department the tools they need and to go ahead.
He doesn't
and go
sound like a
after
complete skeptic all of a sudden.
No, not there. No, because they're looking to pull in more data, and as Howie mentioned, do more reporting. So
but how does this compare to other health problems we have? I mean, we're talking 2 people a day, but I mean that's 700 and something a year.
I mean, like smoking's still the #1 cause of preventable death. But it's a less sexy topic. The opioid
that has not been declared a health emergency.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the opioid epidemic it's been swift and in some ways kind of taken a long time to get to this point with a lot of prescriptions, and it's a formal, it's a formal process. Doctors are prescribing them. So I think a lot of people don't yet realize that this is a slippery slope in ways to drug addiction. You're getting it from a doctor. So perhaps something like this maybe gives it a bit more of a platform. You get more formality to the thing you're trying to bring light to. But yeah, there are certainly a lot of other health problems we've got as well.
And it's not quite flavor of the month, but I mean, everybody's talking about the opioid crisis. I mean, the Attorney General did a news conference a couple weeks ago at a CVS on this topic. You look at the Department of Child Safety, and they will tell you that a lot of the reports of neglect are due to drug abuse. It's hard to break that down by what kind of drug abuse because they don't keep stats on that, but it's widely believed opioids play a big part in that. So if you take a harder look at it, just by focusing on it, maybe you cut those 2 a day. Deaths.
And those are just the deaths. It doesn't count the actual human
addiction.
Impact and the other people who are having issues with it.
Right.
By the way, we're gonna just leave it here. We know we now have Howie on record as saying there's a chance of a rainbow at the end of this, so we're gonna leave it at that and talk about the Corporation Commission.
Oh yes.
Is there a rainbow there? This week, Gary Pierce, Sherry Pierce, lobbyist Jim Norton, utility owner George Johnson, all declared not guilty to charges of fraud, bankruptcy, conspiracy.
No surprise there.
But where are we at in this process? Is this just going to be one of those things that's going to kind of whittle its way through? Is it going to ripple out? Are there other ramifications?
Well, there's about 3 questions in what you're asking. I mean, the trial date is tentatively set for August 1st. I don't think it's going to happen that quickly. We've got, as we've talked about on the show when the indictment first came out, this question.
And real briefly, so those who don't know about it, explain what the situation is.
Supposedly, George Johnson runs something called Johnson Utilities. They do water and wastewater down in Pinal County. He, according to the indictment, funneled money through Jim Norton, who is a lobbyist, to Sherry Pierce, who is the wife of Gary Pierce, who at the time was the chairman of the Arizona Corporation Commission, allegedly for his vote,
regulates utilities.
Which regulates utilities, allegedly for his vote on a couple of matters. One being tax treatment that would allow George Johnson to charge customers for his personal income taxes, and 2, to put $18 million into the rate base. Now, rate base is important because that's how you determine how much you can charge customers. Obviously, the government needs to prove the tit for tat on this, and that's going to be at least part of it. We have this unindicted co-conspirator that we think is the wife of somebody. I'm not going that far, with it. But what's going to happen now is, A, they're going to start squeezing people, see if somebody is weak, and B, the other question is, what else is there out there?
Yeah.
This investigation started over the 2014 election, which involved a Secretary of State's race involving Gary Pierce's son, Justin, who was running, as I say, for Secretary of State. Allegations, there was $500,000 in dark money. Their allegations that somehow Gary Pierce was using his position on the Corporation Commission to get donations for his son.
So in other words, we've already seen it ripple out from a starting point.
There's already a couple other things too. I mean, the Corporation Commission now is going to have to decide, do we reverse those decisions? I mean, there are people who've paid a lot more money in their bills because of them. Should they get the money back? I mean, the commission has to decide what's the process they're going to formally take to review those things. Were they done in the public interest? And then do they need to reverse them? Do people get money back? All those sorts of questions.
Right, because there's an argument that those decisions were made in the public interest, at least. I mean, Gary Pierce didn't make these policies happen all by himself. He had to have a majority vote on the commission, and there are no other commissioners who have had indictments handed up. So you could argue that this was a sound policy from the commission, but yes, I think there's strong interest in revisiting those policies now.
Yeah, and of course, the funny part about this is the allegation. Well, there's supposedly $300,000 worth of land which was never transferred, but the amount of money that supposedly changed hands was $31,000, and which has led to a lot of jokes of, well, not that Arizona politicians can be bought, but how cheaply they can be bought.
There's a lot of people who would argue $31,000 is a lot of money, but real briefly.
There's another part of it too, where Jim Norton and George Johnson, both really heavily involved in political life at the Capitol. They donated to so many people.
The question is, are those people giving that money
back?
Right.
What are you going to do with it? You know, so I know the Republic ran a story today that was a lot of them are, I'm going to wait until they get their day in court, so and keep the possibly dirty money for now, I guess.
Which is interesting because the Republican Party has criticized people, like Kyrsten Sinema, who took money from the folks who own the New Times and the Back Page, who haven't been convicted of anything, but they said she should give it back. So it depends on which side of the street you're on. I know, shocking.
All right, speaking of which side of the street we're on, let's talk about Confederate monuments. This week, some local civil rights activists talked about the fact that there are 6 civil rights Confederate, or pardon me, Civil War Confederate monuments in Arizona, and they said really that these are symbols of hate, and they should be taken down. And I guess the question is it going to happen? That one of them, which is at the Wesley Boland Plaza. Right. You know, is this going to happen quickly? Is this not going to happen at all? And so far, while they had their news conference, we haven't heard very much after the fact.
No, in fact, I think I'm curious what started all this, because we had a little story in the Republic about 2 weeks ago about here's the Confederate monuments in Arizona, and nobody seems very bothered by them. And then a week later, here comes this news conference saying, you know, these are symbols of hate and they've got to come down. Hasn't been a whole lot. Well, it's sparked a debate. You know, but are these historical monuments that should be respected for their place in Arizona history, or are these symbols of racism?
One really interesting part, the New Times had a historical look at these monuments, and the most recent one was from 2010. So look, we're not talking about...
they were put up between 1943 and 2010.
We're not talking about things that happened right after the Civil War. I mean, this is you know, part of a campaign recently to add these monuments to the Confederacy, and now we're sort of seeing that backlash as people become more aware. And this has been a national issue for, you know, the last 6 months, I would say. A lot of places in the South are considering, you know, what do we do with our symbolic representation? You know, is it racist? Is it, you know, somehow off base? Are there better ways to do this? Is it offensive? It's just there's a lot there.
So for some of this, the folks that held the news conference this week arguing on civil rights, they pointed to the governor and they said, Governor, you got to do something about this. You know, we got a highway, part of a highway down by Maricopa the same day after this, the monument out in Wesley Boland, and he's sort of pointing back at other entities saying, well, it's not really my office's
and the governor never wants to, excuse me, which way is the wind blowing on this?
Well, right, I mean, if, you know, I guess DHS is in charge of opioid, you know, epidemic, but it doesn't stop the governor from, you know,
well, and that's the point. And not only that, the Geographic Names Board is full of people that he appoints. I mean, you know, we went through this when they renamed Squaw Peak to Paiestoa Peak, and you remember Jan Napolitano got in trouble for sending, you know, her henchmen in to bust some kneecaps to get some votes for that. So don't tell me that there's no gubernatorial influence on this. But it's an important question here. You know, it's one thing to say we had a Civil War battle down near Picacho. You want to put up a marker, here's where the battle occurred? Yeah. While the Confederacy certainly claimed Arizona, heck, we were a territory then. You know, it's not like, you know, we were active part of that. And when you're putting up monuments during much of the civil rights movement, you got to wonder what the purpose was behind that, to rehabilitate the view of the Confederacy or what. And I think that's the bigger concern. I mean, we don't have a statue of, you know, Robert E. Lee or any of the Confederate soldiers there, but, you know, you got to wonder what's the motive.
And real briefly, is this a debate that will continue on, and do you think there will be change, or is this one of those things going to be, you know, they had a news conference, people talked about it, and moved on?
My money is on the former.
Change?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It'll just status quo.
Okay.
I don't know. That's a hard one. I mean, you know, you've got some people, you know, who, like Jared Maupin, who, you know, won't
let it go.
Won't let it go. He's like a bulldog. He hangs on to things, you know, no matter whether there's something there or not. It is a legitimate debate, and to the extent that we're seeing what's happening in the South, where they're taking down monuments and contractors are being shot at for taking down monuments. Certainly we don't have that depth of feeling here, but it is an important question. Look, this isn't quite like having the Confederate battle flag there, which clearly is a symbol, in my belief, of racism. Is a monument erected in 1960...
Realizing tens of thousands of people died on both sides of this issue. So
I'm saying, but is a monument put up in 1961 to the folks who fought for the South between 1861 and 1865 a symbol of racism? You know, when it's put up, I think, you know, people like the Daughters of the Confederacy, you know, there's the question there.
All right. Speaking of the South, how's this for a transition?
Very
We're going to head
good.
to southern Arizona and talk about Congressman McSally. Earlier this week, a tape was released where she was talking about the fact that the Trump effect is going to have a bit of a hard time. She was speaking to the Arizona Bankers Association last week. She talked about the distractions. And really, this goes back to something we were talking about at the beginning of the program. Is this going to turn into a blue midterm in 2018 as a result of what's going on? And are her comments, is she at the point where she's already starting to give up the boat and think, I'm not going to win this?
I don't think it was that. I think it was, I'm talking to people who could give me money, so I'm telling them that it could be more competitive, so give me money. But the thing I found interesting was for a lot of people who are in a position, especially in swing districts like hers, they've had to answer for every tweet, for every, misstep, every single thing. I mean, she had this interesting quote where she said, now all of a sudden I'm like his twin sister, I have to answer for all these things. Well, I mean, yeah, your party's in power, you have to answer for the things that are happening. It's a bit easier right now for Democrats who, they're not responsible for anything that's going on, so they don't have to answer.
Democrats haven't made they're not responsible?
Well, what's fascinating about this is the Republicans are saying, well, we shouldn't have to answer for something said by somebody else. Yet some of these are the same people who say every Muslim has to stand up when some Muslim radical does something. So you're going to have to defend it. As Rachel points out, you're the party in power. This is your president. You have voted with him. And yeah, sometimes you need to say, no, Mr. Trump, that's not what my constituents want.
So to your question, is this going to be like a blue swing?
Which normally after something like, to go back into 2010, it became a red midterm.
Right.
So.
Well, if it would happen anywhere, I mean, that is a competitive congressional district. McSally's, she's in her second term now, so she's sort of nailed down some support. But the optics, not the optics, but the environment, the greater political environment isn't real favorable for Republicans when you are in a fairly tightly drawn competitive district.
All right, almost out of time. One last topic I have to squeeze in, and a lot of people probably didn't notice the ripple in the force this week. Diane Douglas, for a brief time, was governor of Arizona.
Yes.
And mainly because she's a fourth in line of succession. I believe Howie is the fifth in line of succession. But the point being that the governor was gone, the Secretary of State was gone, the Treasurer was gone.
And the Attorney General.
The Attorney General, I forgot about that.
So she's actually fifth. No, it's an interesting situation. It's never been an issue in Arizona. Look, we have had situations where we've had Republican governors and Democrat secretaries of state and vice versa. This isn't like California was. The first time Jerry Brown was governor, he had a lieutenant governor named Mike Curb. And every time Jerry would leave the state, Mike would go up and blow stuff up and appoint things. There's been a kind of, for lack of a better word, a gentleman's understanding here. You don't do that kind of stuff. Right. Now, we've never had a good test, however, in the state is when the governor leaves the state, is he or she really the governor? And we're still waiting on that test.
And
real briefly,
Douglas just took a lighthearted approach and said she wasn't going to do anything to really ruffle feathers, but she did issue a proclamation, but she didn't publicize it. Yeah, she didn't formalize it. Creating a Teacher Appreciation Day. Who's going to argue with that?
All right. Well, once again, Mary Jo Pitzel from the Arizona Republic. We appreciate Rachel Leingang from Arizona Capital Times. We appreciate Howie Fisher from Capital Media Services.
We don't appreciate it.
We're happy you're here on every level. All right. Let's talk about the fact that Monday on Arizona Horizon, we're going to learn all about the David Wright House being donated as a fundraising effort and how a summer circus camp is helping children avoid those summer slides. That's up next week on Arizona Horizon. Ted Simons will hopefully be back. Have a great weekend.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in to Arizona Horizon here on Arizona PBS. I'm Alice Ferris. When you watch programs like Arizona Horizon, you're going to get an in-depth civil discussion about issues that are important to everyone throughout the state of Arizona and important in your local community. So if you want to make sure that programs just like this continue to be available here only on Arizona PBS, please go to the phone and make your investment in this program. Because now more than ever, we are reliant on viewer support to make programs like this possible. So give us a call at 480-965-8800 or toll free 888-443-2929. Or of course you can go online to make your gift securely at azpbs.org/gift. When you make that investment in Arizona PBS, you make sure that we continue to have the resources available to bring these incredible discussions straight to you. So please go to the phone and make your investment right now.
Hi, I'm Mary Mazur, the new General Manager of Arizona PBS. While I'm new to both the state and the station, I'm not new to public television, and I am really excited to be joining such a dynamic organization. Since it began broadcasting in 1961, Arizona PBS has never wavered on its commitment to delivering high-quality, non-commercial television to this community. We value the trust you've bestowed upon us to be the caretakers of this public institution. We specialize in the education of children and provide programming that stimulates lifelong learning through the celebration of arts and culture and in-depth news and public affairs. We cannot do this without help from you. Your financial support makes all of our achievements possible. Please consider making a donation in any amount that will help us to continue to fulfill our mission of serving you and our community. I appreciate all the support we have received through the years, and I look forward to meeting as many of you as possible at upcoming Arizona PBS events. Thank you.
You know when you tune in to Arizona Horizon that you're going to hear Ted Simons have an incredible discussion with people who are actually involved in the issues that face us. These are not some pundits that necessarily are going to sit there and spout off their opinions. These are people who are knowledgeable about the causes and knowledgeable about the information that they're providing. So if you want to make sure that this type of discussion, this type of civil discourse continues to be available on Arizona PBS, it's important that you give us a call now and invest in this type of program. Now, when you give us a call at one of those numbers on your screen, I hope you'll consider becoming a sustaining member of Arizona PBS. Because the great thing about being a sustaining member is that you get to set the amount that works for your budget. Whether that's $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, or more, you can pick the amount that comes out of your account every single month and will allow you to be generous to this station and make sure that programs just like this continue to have funding available. Because now more than ever, we count on you.
Hi, I'm Paula Kerger, president of PBS. As I've traveled the country and met so many of you, it's been great to hear about the significant role that PBS plays in your life. We want to thank you in a special way by giving you more of the thing that you love about this station, the programming. Passport allows you to watch the programs most important to you on your schedule. You can catch up on episodes you may have missed or find related programs that you might enjoy. What better way for us to say thank you for your support than to give you more of the programs you love. Whether your passion is drama, programs that celebrate our culture, or science and nature, Passport provides you with programming that touches your heart and stimulates your mind. So, if you're a current contributor, I hope you love Passport. And if you're not, call the number on the screen so you can take advantage of this great member benefit. I think you're going to love Passport. And thank you so much for your support.
You know, something to think about is that throughout the country, there are media entities that are actually cutting back on the journalists and cutting back on the newsrooms that they fund. And that's why it's more important than ever that we have public television and public media to bring you great journalism, great discussion, and definitely bring you the voices that wouldn't necessarily be heard otherwise. So if you want to make sure that this type of conversation continues on Arizona PBS, now more than ever, we are reliant on you. So please give us a call at one of the numbers on your screen or go online to securely make your gift and support great news and public affairs programming on Arizona PBS. When you give us a call, you'll make sure that programs like Arizona Horizon continue to have the resources available to continue to bring these interesting people into your living room. So please give us a call at 480-965-8800 or toll free 888-443-2929. Our friendly volunteers are waiting for you to make that call of support and to show your support for Arizona PBS. Thanks.
Explore new ideas.